You ever stop and think about what really makes global commerce tick? You know, beyond the container ships and cargo planes. Well, underneath it all, there's this hidden financial plumbing. And today, we're going to deconstruct a really interesting piece of that system, NVC Fund, which basically operates as a bank for other banks. Right off the bat, this number just jumps out at you, 24/7. And we're not talking about a customer service hotline here. This means the entire financial infrastructure never, ever sleeps. It allows money to just flow continuously across every time zone, from London to Singapore to New York. It's always on, literally everywhere. So that leads us to the big question for this whole explainer, right? What does a bank for banks that runs 24/7 actually do all day? I mean, who is using this thing and how is it different from the bank that you or I use for our paychecks? Let's dive in and find out. Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. This is not the kind of bank you'd find on the street corner. Not even close. Think of this as the engine room of the whole financial system. It's a completely different beast. So here's the official, kind of jargony definition, but let's translate that. A better way to think about it is like a superhighway system built just for big money. It's designed for massive clients. We're talking huge corporations, other banks, even entire governments to manage their cash and move it all around the world. And the scale we're dealing with here is, well, it's huge. They're operating in over 180 countries. Plus, they're plugged right into the SWIFT network. That's the backbone for almost all international finance. And you see that certification? ISO 2202? That's super important. It's basically the new universal language for modern banking, and we'll touch on that again in a bit. All right, so we've got the what and the where. Now let's pop the hood and look at the how. What kind of services does a platform like this actually offer its very powerful clients? So they offer what's called a comprehensive suite of services. But what does full service even mean at this level? It's basically the entire financial toolkit that any organization operating globally would ever need. And this table really breaks it all down. You can see services for managing huge pools of cash in different currencies, for sending money across borders, and for making global trade happen with things like letters of credit. But pay attention to that correspondent banking one. That's the real plumbing that lets a bank in, say, Brazil, work seamlessly with a bank in Japan. Now, I know when you see a term like correspondent banking, your eyes might just glaze over. It sounds super technical and boring, but the concept is actually pretty simple. All it means is that banks have their own bank accounts with each other in different countries. That's the secret sauce. That's what makes international payments feel so seamless. It's all built on this giant web of trust. Okay, so we know what they do. The next obvious question is, why them? Out of all the options, what's the sales pitch that makes a global company or another bank decide to use this specific platform? Their whole pitch really rests on these 6 pillars. It all starts with the foundation of rock-solid security. Then they add that massive global network that's, as we know, always on. And crucially, they speak the modern language of finance with that ISO 20022 certification. And then, look at that last one. Digital assets. They're looking to the future. It's a story that's all about being reliable, modern, and ready for what's next. Let's demystify this real quick, because it's important. Think of ISO 20022 as a universal translator for money. For decades, payment messages were like old-school text messages, very limited. This new standard allows different banking systems anywhere in the world to talk to each other perfectly and to pack way more data into every single transaction. It's all about efficiency. Okay, now this is where it gets really, really interesting. They're not just sticking to the old school financial rails. By getting into things like their own NVCT stablecoin and other digital asset services, they're building a direct bridge to the world of blockchain. For a big institution, this could be a game changer. It might mean faster settlements, way lower costs, and access to totally new kinds of financial products. This is a big move. So, we've covered the what and the why. But let's get specific. Who are the actual clients? Who is this incredibly powerful financial infrastructure really built for? It really boils down to 2 main groups. On one side, you have other financial institutions. We're talking about other banks and even national governments using the platform for their core operations. And on the other side, you've got these massive global businesses, multinational corporations that need to manage cash and make payments in dozens of different countries at once. So after digging into the infrastructure, the services, the clients, what's the big picture here? Let's try to pull it all together.
So, what have we really learned? We've seen a powerful, always on global machine for high level finance. We've seen a complete toolkit of services built for the biggest players on the world stage. But maybe the most important takeaway is that this is a platform that is actively building a bridge between the traditional world of finance we all know and the brand new frontier of digital assets.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. You have a platform here that's blending the old with the new, the global with the digital. So you have to wonder, as that line between traditional finance and digital assets gets blurrier and blurrier, are we looking at the blueprint for the bank of the future? Something to think about.